So I'm going to be doing the final testing protocol on this DSI LL, which is serial number WJF108479869. I was trying to find my records for this console, but it looks like I neglected to do that. I just need to verify I accidentally didn't. No, I would have known if I accidentally sold this serial number with a different console. It's entirely possible when I put this console together, I just never did my backup or did my online paperwork for it. I do have two Japanese ones, but not this serial number. So I need to crack it apart and see what the serial number is on the motherboard. That I know I will have documented. Screwdriver. Ah, here it is. Leftover remnant from the screw cover. Alright, so let me see if I can find this motherboard serial number. I'm just going to hold it up to my camera so I can see it on my computer. Zero six. 067. 014 negative 15. It's right here. So I never did officially make a console for it. Okay. Alright. I make a file on my computer because when I start putting this on eBay, that's where I put all the pictures and other documents I keep with it. Japanese, no known issues. That's what I have on this motherboard. Check this. Check card slot, check L, and game card slot. Okay. That implies that the L button and the game card slot are having difficulties registering. Charge slot, most likely the same. Looks like I probably tried adding more solder to it. If I need to, I can reflow the charge port, the F1 fuse, as well as EM1. For now, I'm just going to assemble it as normal and go through the testing to see if I have... Well, rather, I'll look at these specifically first to see if the problems are still present before I start going through my testing. So I won't put any of the screws back in. It's a handsome looking console. Ooh, that is an interesting unpaired. There's quite the variation between these two screen colors. I'm almost surprised I let that pass. Trying to think if I want to go screen shopping for this guy. Well, since these are more motherboard related, I'll just look into these while I kind of mull on it for a second. I might end up going screen shopping, see if I can find something a little closer. Oh, there I see it. Okay. Blips out when I rotate it around like this. It did once. Trying to see if I can get it to appear again. I am not going to assume that one time was a fluke. Since I'm going to be taking out the motherboard anyway to swap the screens, I think I decided I'm going to do that. Oh, there's no screws in it. I might as well just reflow those ports. Or reflow those components real quick. It'll be a harmless procedure. It'll just be a little easier if I have the power board also come out. Alright, that should do it for the charge port. So, again, one thing at a time here. So I'm looking for more of a red screen. The screen I had in there I have labeled as cool. That was more of a blue leaning screen. So thankfully I have a series of screens that still have good digitizers on them that I can try. And it's just going to be a lot of just trial and error. This digitizer is kind of scratched up a little, but it's all very light scratching. I'm mostly worried about the LCD display, not so much the digitizer right now. Because the digitizers are kind of a dime a dozen. If I can find one that matches really good, then I'll be very happy. Just so I can see these screens a little better, I'll turn off my little overhead light. This is something I would usually catch when I'm assembling these consoles for the first time, but maybe I got a little lazy on this one. No, you can even kind of see it in the screen. That top screen is very red. This is almost more of a yellowish screen, I would say. See what I got here, and if I have to resort to my screens that have bad digitizers on them, I will. But I think I hate screen matching just as much as putting on digitizers and top screen lenses. So none of my other screens that I have here are labeled as warm or red, so I'm gonna have to look at my ones with not good digitizers. I just have a stack of them right here. I'll just kind of one at a time. Yeah, I'm really surprised I let such a difference go by like that. This LCD display ribbon has yuck on it. Something sticky. Didn't notice any water damage on the back, but probably had something spilt on it at once upon a time. Ooh, that's a lot better. That is a lot better. Just look at it again. I'm happy with that, actually. I would say the top screen is still just like very slightly more red. And there is a point to where I just can't get any closer than this. But this is definitely a lot better than that first screen I started out with. Like, I'm very happy with that configuration. Alright, well, this is getting a lot more involved than I expected, but this is what I want to do to this console to make it get it to a state to where I would be happy to sell it. Even if that involves pretty much partially taking it fully apart and swapping out the screen. So now the fun part, swapping the digitizer. Now there's nothing, well, the digitizer probably works fine. You can probably already tell there's some big gashes and it's starting to flake away around these gashes. There's no screen protector on it, I've already checked that. It's just, this poor thing got worn. I don't even know how you even scratch it like that using a needle to play with it, I guess. Where did I put the words? No, that's not it. We'll need one of those though. So I will have to put another screen protector on for the bottom screen, that's not a problem. Brand new digitizer, and I also need to get a bezel for it. I have a couple. I'm gonna find a bronze one that's in pretty good shape. I think this one will do. I need to clean it, but because this console's in otherwise pretty good shape, the glossy shell piece not so much. I'll do one thing at a time here. Let's get this old digitizer off. No real rocket science to it. I'm going to take the old adhesive off with it. The LCD display looks really good. I'm going to set this aside. Here's the underside of it. I need to verify if it has adhesive on it. I don't remember. It does, okay. So these adhere sort of off-center. They line up flush with the bottom down here. Beautiful. Before I get too far with the bezel, I'm going to just verify that I'm not missing a speck of dust or I can probably also check to make sure that the screen actually the touch screen actually works. Because the double-sided tape that I use for the bezel is pretty strong. I'd rather don't want to take it off if I don't have to. Okay, touchscreen is in. Grab my R4 card. It has a testing software in there I can use for the touchscreen. It'll also help keep the shell together. I was just kind of checking the color again. Stylus. I may have to calibrate it if it has a problem. Ooh. Yeah, I need to calibrate it. Since I can't really press any of the buttons, I'll go through the menu. Only to remember that the menu is in Japanese. Trying to remember. No, time, date. I know that's internet. Oh no, that's date, that's time. There we are. Okay. Now I don't know why, but these aftermarket digitizers have like a almost like a matte finish to them. They feel awful. So it's kind of the perk of having a I'm kind of just guessing the border of the bezel right now. Okay, it seems fine for right now. I'm gonna have to just do testing with the touchscreen on, or the screen protector on. That'll sort of be a much better indicator. I'll have to add the screen protector a lot later. So let's get this back apart. I might have to align those buttons as they probably fell out, or they were starting to fall out as I was doing this. Okay. I'll kind of put these aside right now and get the bezel ready. Just kind of go along this edge with the sharp edge of my pry tool to try and get any of this gunk out. Okay, this should do it. About as good as it will get. Grab my double-sided tape. Alright, I'll do that. Now to align this onto the bottom screen, I just kind of let the console do the work for me. There's already a pre-cut slot. I don't want this hair to go with it though. It's already the pre-cut slot for the bezel. You just kind of set it in. I'm gonna put this motherboard like that. Then just dropping the bottom screen in as straight as I can, usually lining up against the bottom groove. Just giving it a nice little press. Look at it just to make sure it all lined up. Looks like it all did. That belongs in there. I did say I'd do the screen protector later. I think I'm going to do it right now. I'm thinking about it. This is going to be kind of a pain, and I hope it goes out over well. Grab a chem wipe. Now the smaller, I'm pretty sure the smaller one of the two is the bottom screen. Yep. Top screen already has one. Just gonna I'd say that went pretty well. Okay. Wow. Ugh. That is never a process I enjoy. Let's get back into the application and try that again. Ah, this feels so much better. Yep. I am noticing every time I turn this console on, when I have my overhead light on, you can kind of see how the colors differ. When I turn it off, it is not as obvious. Yeah, which is kind of interesting. So let's get this back together. Need to sort of put away and classify this screen protector I didn't use, just so I know it's a touchscreen screen protector. I'll have a spare. Kind of clean up my little area. Now, since I did unplug these two ribbon cables, I'm going to want to just wipe them off with some rubbing alcohol really quick. Just so I don't have any hand oil on it. Let me check my notes again. It does say that the game card slot was having a problem. I wanted to look at that real quick. And the game card slot looks fine. All the pins are nice and straight. Nothing too noteworthy there. So I'll just assemble it as normal and kind of go from there. There's a little more I need to do in here, but I'll do that a little later. Because if I have to take out the L button or do work on the game card slot, I'm going to have to reopen it anyway. I'm not going to be able to do my... Okay, I'll just have to... I'll save the extensive work on the game card slot in a little bit. So when I test the game card slot, I use just a whole bunch of different shovelware games that I've gotten as part of ordering a bunch of junk DSIs. And they sort of work as a nice test bed to test out all of the carts, or every degree of like cart degradation. They're not like, none of these carts are particularly bad in any way. Some are better than others, and that kind of gives me a rough average of game carts. And since they're all shovelware, I don't really care if I damage them by taking them in and out of consoles. Start with Bejeweled 3. Okay, so what I'll usually do with my more official game card test is I'll slot it in like normal, pops up just fine. I'll put a little bit of pressure on it and jiggle it from side to side to see if it vanishes from the menu, which Jules 3 did for a second. There it goes again. And basically what this is testing is if you were playing the game and the game card was like bumped, it shouldn't blip out like that. But if it does blip out like that while you're playing, your console will shut off. And since this is the era of video games where you had to manually save, that can be pretty detrimental. Dog Whisperer. Let's try that again. Now what I'll do is, there'll be an additional test I do when I actually do the game card test, where I'll thump the back, like hit the back of the console, but since it's kind of partially disassembled still, I don't want to pop the battery out. So I didn't have any problems with Dog Whisperer. I don't have any problems with SpongeBob, Wonder Pets. No problem there. Go, Diego, go. No problem there. Pampered Pets. No problem there. And Crafting Mama. Okay, so it was just Bejeweled 3 that was having a problem. So it should mean all I need to do is get a good cleaning on this game card slot, which is pretty easy to do. I'm not even able to get it to pop up again, so it's possible just the friction between all these carts was enough to clean it. I will clean it again, but I do want to check the L button before I do that. So I'll pop in my R4 card again and go down to Diagnose, which is sort of my main diagnosing software that I use. Oh yeah, okay, I'm getting nothing on the L button. Absolutely nothing on the L button. And I notice there's a speck of dust underneath the digitizer that's blocking a pixel. Can I see that little speck right there? That's annoying, but not unexpected. So I'll look at the L button, clean out the game card slot, and try and get that piece of dust from out underneath the digitizer. One I'm not really looking forward to. Get these games out of the way. So it's entirely possible I didn't plug the shoulder button in all the way. It would be this one anyway. L button, right? Yeah. I don't see any damage with the ribbon cable, but I'll look into that a little later. Get this back out. Over on this side. This is going to be fun. There's no real science to this. It's just going to be trial and error. together enough to test. Ooh, I still see it over there. Wonder if that's underneath the screen protector then. I really hate to do this. I don't think it was. That spot right there, it's actually kind of hard to see. I'm almost wondering if it's more of an imperfection on the digitizer than an actual piece of dust. I'll just do a new screen protector anyway. That is really interesting. It's like in the digitizer. I see it right there where I'm scratching it. I don't know how well that's going to come through. There's just this opaque dot. That's what I'm seeing, and it's like in the digitizer. Well, that sucks. I mean, this thing's a bunk from the factory. Gotta love third-party parts. And though those might pass QA on their end, it does not pass QA on my end. Try this again with another one. Looks good. Did a very poor job lining up that digitizer. A little bit of persuasion. Do the job. All right, try it this time. I'm going to turn off my light. I think we're home free on that one. Now I need to put the bezel back on after saying how much of a pain it is to take off after I put that double-sided adhesive on. I'm not really too worried about this digitizer. I think I'm just going to basically just flood it with rubbing alcohol and hopefully it comes off in one piece. So I would not try that when the when the LCD is on, because that will damage the LCD. That much fluid. Just doing it to send a message. I may have to re-adhere this. add more tape, I should say. That was pretty easy to take off, I say. Garbage. I need to let this dry. Now I'm going to tape it again. Hopefully for the last time. Watch this digitizer have dead zones or something stupid. Alright, same procedure as last time. One of the many things I do is put my plastic pry tool somewhere where I can never find it. There we have it. Again. Alright, let's try this again with another screen protector. process. I hate this process. I hate this process. I really need to get one of those like stencil things that they have for phones. Yeah, perfect. Just what I love to see. Well, that might just be as good as it gets. Not perfect, but I think it will work. It'll do the job. Nothing is obstructing these pixels. Let's go test the touchscreen. Thankfully, it looks like it's good. Goodness gracious. Okay. Now we can get back to putting this back together again. And then cleaning the game card slot and checking the L button again. Now for cleaning the game card slot, find one I don't really care about. Bejeweled 3 was the one we were having problems with, so I'll leave that as sort of the pseudo control. I'll sacrifice the Diego game. I'll put rubbing alcohol on all of these pins. Kind of saturate it a little. And then just take it out and put it in several times. Just kind of getting friction on those pins. Now usually the rubbing alcohol will kind of impact the mechanism, but once it dries it goes back to normal. And impact the mechanism meaning not, well, it feels weird for one and maybe it won't eject. But I'm just I'm more worried about the friction on the pins. And then as I kind of put everything back together, I'll give it a chance to dry. And we'll give this L connector a little bit of rubbing alcohol. I'll see if it's just the connection wasn't that good with the L button. And since I already have it disassembled like this, I can go ahead and just take the L button out and clean it. Now what I do to clean these buttons is get this little bottle cap full of rubbing alcohol and submerge the button. Then with my tweezers, I'll just click it a bunch of times. So I'll save testing the game card slot until I actually get to that step. I will test the L button again just to see if I can get it to register. If I can't get it to register at all, it might just mean that ribbon is bad. Well, I could always check the volume buttons as well since they share that ribbon. I'm getting nothing on that L button. Volume button works. Nothing at all. I'm curious as to why. If I had to take a guess, maybe that ribbon is torn. Maybe the solder joints on the button itself is bad. A little hard to say. Because that's in all the way. And this ribbon would have to be torn quite a ways to hit those traces. Take my multimeter probes to it to see if I get a registered click. If I remember correctly, okay, it's the center and the one to the right, I think. Hmm. What's interesting is the button feels fine. Like it clicks. I'm almost really not suspecting that to be an issue. See if that did anything. Yeah, I'm getting absolutely nothing from this button. Well, I have replacements that I can use. Now this one should be fine. I won't know until I put it in. It's not very often that they just kind of fail like that. I might just have to take that button apart for pure academic curiosity. There we go. Well, I think I can finally start the actual final test. So let me get... So now that I've confirmed that everything is working, at least everything that I marked as a problem, even that fucking bottom screen that was completely different color, that's now better. I can do my final things that I want to do in here, which is going to include a piece of Kapton tape over the digitizer ribbon cable and the backlight ribbon cable. Nintendo has a piece of tape over these from the factory. I figure if they think it's important, then I should think it's important. Rather benign addition. Okay. So I checked the charge slot as well as the game card and L button. So now we can start getting on the actual paperwork. I usually would confirm the motherboard serial number, but I already did that with my file. It is 06706012 U01 AOWP negative A15. Software version I don't think I've noted that. I can get that later. Battery life 4 hours 40 minutes. Shell serial number, unit color bronze. Okay, now kind of going one at a time. I'll get the software version a little later. I'll start with sort of my checklist down here. This will just be the several items I will check and check off. So the first one is the power board and motherboard. Basically all that's testing is, does the thing turn on and reach the main menu? Yes. Simple test. If it didn't pass, that would be bigger problems, but something I gotta check regardless. Next is tactile buttons. I'll go back into diagnose and test all the buttons. So the problem child buttons are the shoulders and sometimes the D-pad. So I'll pay special attention when pressing those buttons. Usually the face buttons are fine, but I'll just press them a whole bunch of times and just see if my presses match up with what's on the screen. When I do the shoulder buttons, I kind of do the edge of the button as well as sort of like centered on the button. And it looks like they're responding as I would expect. Next is touchscreen. I go to a different, well, it's the same one you saw before. So I'll do around the edges. Up here, I'm kind of getting caught in the edge of the screen protector. Then I'll do swirls. Basically, all this is looking for is like erroneous inputs or dead zones. If a touchscreen has a dead zone, then you'll be doing a line across here, and then suddenly there'll just be like a big bulge on the side that won't respond, or that won't, yeah, it won't respond to any of your touch, no matter, even if you're touching over here. So I've had it to where they're like that. I've had some where you'd be going across and then it shoots an input all the way over here for some reason. So this one looks good. I have no problem with it. It's brand new. It better be good at this point, really. Next is speaker, microphone, and headphone jack. I'm going to kind of combo this with a test of the SD card slot as well. I have an SD card with a piece of music on it. And if it can read the song off the SD card, I assume that slot is fine. I don't need to go into my R4 card, I need to go into DS Sound. I'll test the microphone first. La 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 la! And my beautiful singing voice was recorded. So now I'll go SD. It's reading the song just fine. I'm going to check out the both speakers, and I also have a set of earbuds I'll use to test the headphone jack. Make sure it's coming out of both sides. I'll check the headphone jack first. Helpful if I plugged it in all the way. And it's coming out of both earbuds. I'll have to take my word for that. And it's coming out of both speakers. Pencil. So I can check that off. I can also check off the SD card slot. I combo that with the game card slot, which I have not verified, so I'll do that a little later. Get the SD card out so I don't leave it in there. Next is cameras. That one, pretty easy. Nope. I'm not going through the tutorial. You can bypass it by just pressing the shoulder button. Yep, both cameras work. The camera tutorial is a pain, and I hate doing it. Next is charge slot. Just kind of what I already did earlier. Plugged in normally, solid orange charge light. Just sort of jiggle it around in the slot, seeing if it turns off at all. Which it doesn't. So that tells me that the charge port is good and the solder connections are solid. What I can also do is, I'm just going to check it with this. I have a electricity meter or a USB meter thing. Yep, and it's drawing electricity. I'm more just testing that thing out for fun. Just to make sure it's not telling me a false positive and it's actually not drawing electricity. That's usually I usually find that out when I do the battery tests, that the console does indeed charge the battery because I run the battery completely dead. Anyway, I just need a justification to use my fun new toys. How about that? Charge port works. So game card and SD card slot. I already assessed the SD card slot to be good. So now I'll do the game card slot test again. Same pile of game cards. So we'll start with Diego, which was my cleaning cart. Popped up immediately. Jiggle it side to side. Still there, and then Give it a few thwacks on the back. That's good. Crafting Mama. Pops up immediately. Wonder Pets. Good. And the hitting it on the back kind of does the same. It's sort of the same principle as sort of moving the game card slot side to side. Is if you had this game, or if you had your console on standby and you accidentally bump something, it's not just going to completely shut your console off. Good. SpongeBob. Oh. I didn't thwack it for this game, but I expected the result. So those passed. Or it passed. Now my last test is Wi-Fi. I do that by connecting this to my hotspot on my phone. My phone is currently being used as a camera, so I'm just going to have to do that later. Now I need to put screw covers on. I haven't decided if I wanted to put a new screen protector on. My pile of screw covers that I got. Looks like 3 of each. Then what I'll do is I'll get some Elmer's glue. And just take a little bit off, or squeeze it just a little bit so it starts bubbling up at the very tip. And then I just touch the top of the screw head. Just enough to leave a little bit of glue behind. Since these top screen screw protectors don't experience any mechanical stress, they don't need much glue. It's more just to keep them in place. And a lot of the times these screw covers will still have their adhesive pad on the back. Dokie, let those dry. Chase a screw cover that fell on the floor. Here it is. Now for the feet, I do a little more glue because those do end up getting a little bit of mechanical stress. Help if I opened it. Get the extra glue that kind of squished out. And while I let these dry, I need to do one final test. Okay. Trying to get those screw covers nice and spiffy. Kind of make sure they're all nice and lined up. So why I'm sitting on the sound app for no particular reason is I'm testing for image retention. which I think we're good. Basically, if the image were to be, if any of these screens were starting to fail, a very pretty clear print of the sound app would be in the background of one or both of these screens, and I don't see anything, so I think we're good. I can jot down the version as 1.4J. Alright, let me grab some distilled water. And I'll give this console a good wipe down. Wow, that's inconvenient. Not doing anything too special, just giving it a wipe down. Okay, so now I'm going to go down to the actual scored 4 tests that I do. And that will sort of determine what shape I determine that this console is in. I could probably make a pretty good guess, but... So the first one is the physical condition of the shell. That is all the shell pieces. Usually, as, well, you can probably already tell this top shell piece is pretty scratched up. It's not that horrible. There's no real deep scratches. A lot of it is very light. You can tell that there's sort of the rectangular border around where the top of the glossy shell kind of peaks, because it has this little rounded edge right here. It peaks and then it flattens, or it probably even dips, but that's usually where there's a lot of light scratching, just a lot of really light scratching all over this. There's pretty noticeable scratch right there. Just light scratching, what I would guess from just normal use. The rest of the hinge piece looks good. There's a little tiny mark right there. I almost won't even mention that because it's so tiny. Looking around the hinges, it's actually pretty good. And around the edges of the top screen also looks pretty good. There's a mark right there. Looking at the back, looks very good. There is a good scratch right here across the Nintendo. Oh, there you go, camera. Right across here. But I think that might be the only thing that's wrong with this bottom shell. Very impressive. And now the actual face shell pieces. all look very good. Well, I would say that this is bad enough. It's... I can't give it excellent. I'll give it very good. Which is a 2 out of 3. Light scratching on glossy. How deep is that scratch? Can't really feel it. One scratch on bottom. Physical condition of the hardware are all the buttons, which what I should really do is sort of bundle those into the shell condition, because I will tend to match, it's usually the shoulder buttons that tend to be the problem, and I tend to match those with the condition of the shell. I also include things like the screw covers. That one was kind of giving me a bit of a headache. But it looks okay. Yeah, I think they're fine. Face buttons look okay. Shoulder buttons, I matched the bottom shell, so they're in great shape. So check the feet down here, and they all look fine. Now I'm going to give it an excellent. I think they're all in great shape. I see nothing wrong. Physical condition of the screens are the actual, covers, the digitizer and the top screen. Now, the digitizer is brand new. All of the marks that are going to be visible on the bottom screen are just because, for one, I'm in a dusty environment, so dust is going to be constantly falling down on it. And two, just a good old-fashioned attempt of a screen protector, so a lot of that is under the screen protector. Same as that. That was the corner I needed to bend up. But for the face of it, should be good. And the digitizer is brand new, and I verified that there's no dust underneath it. At least nothing that blocks any subpixels. For the top screen, there's the wet side. Here it is. Little hard to say. There are some little minor scuffs I was trying to get off. I don't even know if I can even show them. They're so faint. Yeah, there you can kind of see them. Those are underneath the lens. There's also some specks of dust under the lens. So I won't say they're perfect, so I will say they are very good. New digi. Marks under top lens. I'm not going to include the rather poor touchscreen screen protector. That's, well, I add these as a courtesy because I really don't like the feeling of the touchscreen when I replace the digitizer. Screen condition. Okay. I was kind of noticing something I didn't want to mention. I do still think they match. And I really do feel like I have to... I have to look at it several times. But I do feel like I do detect just incredibly minor yellowing on the bottom screen. I really can't tell if that's just me looking at these screens too many times. Yeah, I think I'm gonna say there is very minor yellowing. And I would say the top screen is also slightly more red. But I think otherwise, I think I did a pretty okay job matching it. They're not perfect. You can almost kind of make that out in the camera. But kind of how I look at it is I can only ever get so close when I'm matching these. I'm matching random screens together, and since they all vary slightly, sometimes I'll get really close, sometimes I won't, I'll be very far off, kind of like what the screens were on this originally. And then other times I just have to get as close as I can, reasonably. And I think this is pretty close. Because unless you plan on just staring at white screens, sure, that might be a problem, but once you start playing a game, throwing content through these screens, I doubt you'll notice it. But if you're particularly sensitive, that is something worth noting. So I think because I can maybe detect some yellowing on the bottom screen, I will mention that. And the top screen is just a little red. This is really hard to say what I want to put this as. I would say it would be on like the lowest end of very good. I look at it some more here. Like the slight red on the top screen is so very slight that I'll mention it, but I think I'll keep it at a very good just how close they are. Very slight yellowing on bottom. Very slight red on top. Doesn't necessarily make any sense, but so we have a physical condition of the shell, 2 out of 3. Hardware, 3 out of 3. Screen, physical condition, 2 out of 3. Screen condition, 2 out of 3. 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Which puts it squarely in the very good. Coolio. Now I'm going to do the justification video. Hopefully get this thing on eBay.